The boardroom was silent, so silent that the faint hum of the air conditioning felt deafening. All eyes were fixed on the woman standing confidently at the front of the room, her tone calm, her posture elegant, her gaze unwavering. Good morning, everyone," she began, her voice smooth but commanding. "My name is Elena Carter, and starting today, I'll be serving as your new operations strategist." Her words rippled across the room. The executives exchanged curious glances, some whispering under their breath. She wasn't just beautiful, she was magnetic. Her presence alone shifted the energy in the building. At the far end of the table sat Ethan Reed, the CEO of Red Dynamics, young, brilliant, intimidatingly composed. His jaw clenched imperceptibly as he met her gaze for half a second before looking away. To the outside world, they were strangers. But behind closed door, behind carefully drawn curtains and locked doors in a quiet penthouse uptown, Elena Carter was Mrs. Elena Red, his secret wife. They had met 5 years ago, long before Ethan became a billionaire tech mogul, long before the press began following his every move. Back then, he was just a restless coder with big dreams, and she was an architectural designer struggling to get her startup noticed. They bonded over ambition, over late-night coffee runs and shared failures. Their love had been quiet but fierce, something real in a world of ambition and greed. But when Ethan's company went public and his board began demanding he maintain a marketable image, especially one that didn't fit the polished narrative, became a liability. So they hid it. A courthouse wedding, a quiet exchange of vows, a promise to wait for the right time. But that time never came. As his company grew, so did the distance between them. Ethan buried himself in work, building his empire while Elena waited, writing them notes he rarely had time to read. Until one day, she stopped waiting. She wanted to see who he had become, the man she loved, but hardly recognized anymore. And so, she applied for a position in his firm under her maiden name. He didn't stop her. He couldn't. He wanted to see if the woman who once held his heart still could. From the first week, their dynamic was strained. Ethan kept his distance. In meetings, he rarely addressed her directly. In hallways, he nodded curtly, pretending not to notice the faint tremor in his chest when her perfume brushed past. The employees adored her. Elena's ideas were innovative yet humane. She spoke about efficiency, but never at the cost of people's dignity. A profit is good, she once told her team, but progress without empathy isn't success, it's ego. That line made its way across departments and soon reached Ethan's ears. He wanted to be proud, but instead he felt threatened because people looked at her the way they used to look at him. 2 months passed. The office began to buzz with unspoken curiosity. Who was this woman who could challenge the CEO's ideas and somehow get away with it? One afternoon, during a high-stakes investor presentation, Elena proposed restructuring one of the company's major projects. Her plan was radical, more sustainable, but less immediately profitable. Ethan's tone was sharp. Or suggesting we cut into projected earnings for sentiment? Elena met his gaze evenly. I'm suggesting you invest in long-term loyalty, not just quarterly numbers. People don't stay where they feel replaceable. The boardroom fell silent. For a moment, Ethan's mask slipped. Something flickered in his eyes. Anger, admiration, longing. He dismissed the meeting early. Later that night, he sat alone in his glass office, watching her leave through the lobby's reflection. His fingers hovered over his phone. He wanted to text her. You're incredible. You always were. But pride kept him silent. The shift came unexpectedly. A new executive joined, Derek Lang, smooth-talking, wealthy, and far too charming for his own good. He took a liking to Elena almost instantly. He brought her coffee, complimented her designs, stayed after meetings just to pick her brain. Everyone noticed, including Ethan. The first time he saw Derek touching Elena's arm as they laughed in the cafeteria, something inside him snapped. He had no right, no claim, but his chest burned anyway. At dinner that night, Ethan sat across from Elena in their quiet penthouse, the city lights flickering through the window. So he began stiffly. You and Lang seem close. Elena looked up from her plate. We work together. He's kind. The kind. His voice sharpened. He's transparent. He flirts with anything that breathes. Her tone stayed calm. You know, you're the one who taught me how to hide feelings in public. That silenced him. For the first time in years, she saw something break in his expression. Remorse. Elena, he said softly, at this distance, it wasn't supposed to hurt you. She met his eyes, her own filled with quiet pain. It wasn't supposed to erase me either, Ethan. The tension lingered for weeks, until the charity gala. Reed Dynamics hosted a massive event every spring, a black-tie fundraiser filled with cameras, shareholders, and investors. Elena arrived in a silver gown that shimmered like liquid moonlight. Ethan spotted her the moment she walked in, Derek by her side, his hand lightly on her back. Something primal stirred in him. He told himself to stay calm, to play the part. But when Derek leaned closer, whispering something that made her laugh, that same laugh Ethan hadn't heard in months, he moved. It wasn't planned, it wasn't rational, but it was real. Ethan crossed the ballroom floor, his expression unreadable. Conversation stilled as the CEO of Red Dynamics stopped directly in front of his employee, his wife. Elena, he said quietly, but firmly enough that everyone around heard. Derek turned slightly amused. Mr. Reed, we were just discussing. Ethan didn't even glance at me. His gaze stayed locked on her. I think, he said, his voice low, trembling with restraint, we've hidden long enough. Ha! And before anyone could process, he reached for her hand, then pulled her close and kissed her. The room froze. Cameras flashed. Gas rippled. It wasn't just a kiss. It was years of restraint breaking open in front of the world. When he finally pulled away, his eyes softened. No more secrets, he whispered. Not about us. The next morning, the media exploded. CEO Ethan Reed reveals secret marriage. Who is Elena Carter Reed? Office romance scandal, a power couple goes. The board was furious. Investors panicked. But Ethan didn't care. For once, he wasn't managing an image. He was living. Elena, however, wasn't as easily swayed. She confronted him that night in his office, the headlines still flashing across screens. You didn't claim me out of love, she said quietly. You claimed me out of jealousy, his expression faltered. You think that's all this is? I think, she continued, her voice trembling. You forgot how to love me without proving something to the world. He walked toward her, slowly. You're wrong. Am I? He stopped inches away, his tone soft but raw. I let the world define me, Elena. But when I saw him with you, I realized I was losing the only part of my life that ever felt real. Tears glimmered in her eyes. You can't just fix this with one kiss. I know, he said, but I can start by not hiding anymore. Days passed, weeks. The storm calmed. Ethan faced his board, his investors, his PR team. He told them he wouldn't apologize for being human. Elena has every right to be here, he said at a press conference. Not because she's my wife, but because she's earned it. He looked straight into the cameras. And if my company or my reputation can't handle authenticity, then maybe it's not worth protecting. It was bold, reckless, but it worked. Public sentiment shifted. Instead of a scandal, the story became a narrative of love, loyalty, and vulnerability. But finally, one headline read, a CEO who's not afraid to be human. Elena continued working at the firm, but this time as a partner. Their relationship didn't magically heal overnight. There were still long conversations, silences, and compromises. But for the first time in years, they were honest with themselves and each other. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Ethan found her standing by the office window, looking down at the bustling streets below. He came up behind her, wrapping his arms gently around her waist. You still think I only claimed you out of jealousy? He murmured. She smiled faintly, leaning into him. Or maybe jealousy just reminded you of what was already yours. He kissed her temple. No, Elena, you were never mine to own. You were my choice, and I forgot how lucky I was that you chose me back. She turned, meeting his gaze. And then don't forget again. He nodded, a quiet promise in his eyes. As the city lights glimmered around them, two people who had once hidden from the world finally stood in it, unmasked and perfect, but together. And for the first time, Ethan Reed didn't feel like a CEO protecting an empire. He felt like a man who finally earned the right to love, in public,